Hello and welcome to episode 185 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Just a couple of regular guys drinking some irregular beers and talking Magic the Gathering. In particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That's right, and we are finally talking about a magic themed magic set.
Woot woot!
I know we have spoilers for a new set that's coming out, Tarkir Dragonstorm. We get dragons and magic again. Everything looks like magic, and it's great. It's weird to be here almost, but it's good to be back, I guess. Anyway, each week we bring a beer, we drink it, we rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right. This week we have our finale
Hmm.
from Bickford Brewing. We picked up a bunch of these. They've performed, there's been some variants, but they've overall
Hmm.
performed pretty well, I think. And
Yes, I
so
think so too.
we are ending with their Foggy Day IPA. Claims it's a warm hug on a foggy day. This is a New England style IPA.
Hmm.
Allegedly, it's award winning and it's 6.7%. So, maybe we saved the best for last here on
I
an
think we might have.
already impressive performance from Bickford.
Yes, I'm excited for this one. I always love a New England IPA, so uh,
Same.
nice to have it, especially because it snowed in Toronto today. So it's kind of foggy. I think it fits a little bit.
We got a bit of
So
hail, Yeah, it
yeah.
fits the bill.
All right. Yeah, let's crack it open. Here we go. With that, we do have some magic news. There are a couple events this weekend. The biggest one is Arena Championship number 8 is this weekend, which was surprising because I didn't really know that was happening at all until the announcements on Monday. Um, I feel like I didn't hear. I knew there was news. I knew that it was going to happen at some point, but I, for whatever reason, hadn't seen anything about it until this week. So strange marketing techniques, but that's kind of what we expect from the arena team
Yeah.
sometimes.
I
So
was furiously checking my email for my invite, but I guess it maybe it went to my spam. I don't know.
yeah, it must have been.
But as a result, unfortunately, I won't be playing in this. But
For sure. Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Uh,
thought I'd
anyway,
get like a
so
content creator invite or something.
hey, there's only 52 people playing in this tournament, but we want you just because you
Yep.
have a podcast.
I heard you were one of the top-ranked gaming podcasts in Spain.
Yeah. God. Oh, anyway, it's happening this weekend, March 29th and the 30th, and the format is Explorer. And that's all. It's just Explorer. There's no draft or anything. I did want to talk to you, Jeff, about this though, because the tournament is structured strangely. It's not like the
Sure
Pro
is.
Tour at all, or really any kind of tournament that we've had, or any other arena championship. I'm pretty sure none of the other ones were like this. Um, so basically, the tournament is 7 rounds of Swiss on day one, which is normal. Okay, cool. We play Swiss, but then on day two, it's there's a single elimination playoff between the top 24, or not between the top 24 players, but to get into the top 24. Right? Is that right? Or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
but the fact that day one is Swiss and that day two is a single elimination, except for some of the top players in day one get to just kind of go straight to the finale rounds or they get a bye or a couple buys or something. It just seems weird. It seems really weird to me that there's a Magic tournament that's single elimination in the first place. Like, sure, it's day two, but still, like, that seems bizarre.
Yeah. I think the way to think about this, so I mentioned this like the first thing I thought of when I saw this is it feels more like a sports tournament, and in particular, it kind of reminded me of the World Cup
Right.
when it comes to sports, where you have a preliminary round, which is round robin.
Hmm.
In the World Cup, people would be in groups, and they would all play each other. They'd be in groups of four. But
Yeah.
here it's just like the one huge group, and you play in like a Swiss kind of style, and then it cuts to the round of 16, basically. And the round of 16 is then like pared down. One, you have 16, then 8, then 4, then 2, then 1, sort
Hmm.
of like you know, backing out the quarterfinals one round.
Hmm.
And that's a pretty common like World Cup experience. And then the World Cup on top of that will do like wild card things. So to get into the top 16, to expand that from just the 16 best teams, usually to like the best 24-ish teams, they'll have wild cards to like get in
Get
so
your
that it's not
spots.
just
Okay.
if you're first and second in every um, group. It's like
Hmm.
some of the third place teams will also
Right.
try to
Okay.
sneak their way in. And this is basically like that, except it's a bit backwards, where if you're one of the top eight, you secure your spot in the top 16 immediately. And then everyone else, which is 16 other teams, plays in like a mini weirdo round of
Right.
16 to like a wild card round to get into the round of 16.
Got it. Okay.
So it's kind of like a sports tournament. Um, it's not a traditional Magic tournament for sure, but you could also imagine it as like day two is just getting slashed, and you're going right to like the elimination rounds.
Gotcha.
But the
But
elimination rounds is a little more
it's
complicated.
huge.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of true. Right, right. So we always have elimination. It just doesn't happen until the top eight. So this is just like super top eight, kind of like day two is like a giant,
Yeah, it's like
giant
it is,
thing.
and it is a top 16, except then they want to
Hmm.
expand that even further. But you don't want to do a top 32 in like a 50 player tournament. It feels a
Right.
bit like, okay, you in particular didn't can make it.
Didn't.
You
Yeah,
go
yeah.
home. Everyone else.
That's
Yeah,
like if you have the yeah, like a 12 team fantasy football league, but only four players don't make it to the playoffs. Like
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
that's a little weird.
And
Yeah.
then you could like shit the bed all season and then just spike the playoffs
And
and
then
win the
yeah, yeah,
tournament.
and then win the tournament. Yeah.
Everyone's mad except that
Yeah.
guy. Um,
Including the commissioner, be like, this is not what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
Uh,
So they I think they started backwards from like, okay, I don't think we have enough for 2 days of Swiss, right?
right.
But one day cut to top eight feels rough.
Hmm.
So how do we like not do that? Uh,
Yeah.
and the one thing that jumped out to me was they're going to play 7 rounds of Swiss in like what did you say? It's 52 players.
Yeah, 50, I think it's 52 or 53.
That's great. There must be like a direct route into the top eight or something when you win 5 in a row
Yeah.
or something like that, right? Like we've seen that in world championships,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
like it's going to have people playing each other again if you
It's
have
true.
7 rounds in a 50-player event.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the other thing, right? You don't want like day one and then day two is just kind of like day one again. And then a bunch of people like matching against each other over and over again, like every other round. It's just like the same thing you just saw. So,
Yeah, when you pick 50, low 50 number of players for a
mhm.
Magic tournament, you put yourself in a we can't use the standard like
Structure thing.
template
Hmm.
situation because it just doesn't really work that well. You can't play 15 rounds of Swiss on 50 players. It's crazy.
It's just, it would also just be so, it would be weird to play, but also it's just so dull to watch too.
Right.
You're like,
It's
oh,
like,
this is the
and it's
third
this matchup
time.
again. These
Yeah, these
exact two players.
Yeah. And they still are, it's not even like, oh, and this time this person's on the draw or whatever. It's like, no, it's just exactly the same.
Or it's like an intentional draw for 11 rounds in a row.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, wow, what a fun thing. So anyway, I just thought that was really interesting. I hadn't really seen a Magic tournament that was structured like that before, and I wanted you to explain it to me because I didn't fully understand it.
It seems wonky at first, for sure, but the World Cup thing helped me internalize it as normal, being like it's kind of
Hmm.
like a round 16 with a wild card and a
Yeah,
and a Swiss before, basically what the World Cup is.
yeah, I get that. That makes more sense, and I'm happy with that. So awesome. Should be sweet. There's a lot of cash prizes this weekend for all those competitors. And then the top 16 players of Arena Championship 8 will be invited to the Pro Tour Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy at MagicCon Las Vegas later in June, I think it is.
Wait, so the
And
top 16 get an invite to the Pro Tour?
yes.
Okay, that makes a difference because now if you don't top eight the main event, you now have a win and into the Pro Tour
Hmm.
in your like wild card top 16
Spots.
rounds.
So that does
Whoa,
make it a
those
bit
are going
more
to be
exciting.
intense.
Yeah.
Those are going to be those are going to be a good watch.
So that should be pretty sweet. And then also, as usual, the finalists, so the top one and two, are invited to Magic World Championship 31, which is going to be in October of this year.
Okay, now
Um,
I'm a little excited. I think this could be
yeah,
interesting.
so
Probably the last few rounds of Swiss, I'm still like, I guess you're looking for a win
could
and
be
in 2 year potential wild card win and in. So maybe
for the Pro Tour, which is
that'll be interesting. But
pretty cool. Top player gets $30,000, so that's nothing to sneeze at either.
and I
Not some of the
love
huge,
that
huge
it's
ones, but
Explorer. So
and it is Explorer, which we don't always get tournaments like this. Like, hey, as far as like Arena formats that they could be playing, it's a pretty sweet one. So definitely check it out. I will be watching a bit, and I think there's some streamers doing some watch parties as well. I know Carlo of Team Magic Jank is going to be doing a watch party, so go check it out. If you
nice,
don't
yeah,
want to be
check that
alone,
out.
yeah, go see some stuff. Uh,
I can't wait for
also,
Lotus Field to absolutely obliterate the tournament and then never play against anything other than Lotus Field on the ladder ever again. It's
that's
gonna be fun.
definitely something that could happen. But don't worry about it. Anyway, also, if you are watching the tournament or get tired of it or not interested in that at all, that is also fine. There is an Arena Direct event this weekend for Aether Drift booster boxes. So we're back to play boosters. I was worried that collector boosters were going to be the Arena Direct events forever, but I think they're just mixing it up. These also seem to happen like all the time now. These are just, it's like every other weekend. It basically feels like we have
I was gonna say, I feel like I just played in an Aether Drift one of these.
yeah, there's like an Aether Drift one. There's also like a Foundations one again, or maybe there's a Duskmorn one. They just keep popping up
Oh
all over
man,
the place.
wish I'd played in the Foundations one. That sounds sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved that one, but it just seems to be like this. It was this thing that was happening every once in a while, like once a set, it's the weekend, and now it's just all the time, which means that these are very, very lucrative for WotC. They are making a ton of money off of this. Gotta be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was so surprised when like it seemed like they weren't because they were so hesitant at first.
Hmm.
Because it's like, well, anything you don't sell, are stores clamoring to buy Duskborn right now? Like, no. But you can have these arena events, have people spend like 5K gems to join this
Hmm.
thing or whatever it is. And all you have to do is give up your extra stock of like Duskborn booster boxes. Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. And like it's not even it's just like the hope of giving it up. So
Right.
like they
And
don't
I
even
think
have
maybe the
to
first few times they didn't really have a good grasp of how many booster boxes would be won in this
that's
kind of
true.
thing and how many gems they would get back. So they're probably just like testing the waters on that.
Hmm.
But it seems like they've figured it out, and now they're like, yeah, let's just run one of these
Yeah.
like every couple of weeks.
I do love that you say how many gems they're gonna get because like as if they can buy stuff with gems. Like
Yeah.
they're like, yes,
How many
finally.
wild cards will they
Now we are gonna
receive?
go infinite on Arena. Uh,
It's just the
but
devs being like, yes,
yeah.
another 5K gems.
Hell yeah. But no, those are a lot of fun.
WotC doesn't even know
Go
it's
play it.
happening. It's like guys who work there grabbing booster boxes out of the back and like coding it into the game.
Oh. But yeah, it does seem to be a very normal thing that's happening. It's more frequent. The Arena Direct events are more frequent than the Arena Opens now, which wasn't always the case. So just
Yeah,
something
I
I
mean
wanted to.
the arena opens are much more challenging events, right?
Well, they're 2 day events. This is just you just join, but
What I like about these though is like the arena opens are very by necessity like time bound. You have to play at
mhm.
certain times during the day in both days, which is a lot to ask.
They're not dad friendly. You're right.
This is like, hey, whenever you have a few hours, like After your kids go to sleep this weekend, give it a shot. If you don't make it, you don't make it. If you do,
Hmm.
here's some packs for your chaos drafts. I'm like,
Yeah,
sweet, I love that.
it's great. But like barely even packs for chaos draft. It's like, hey, just draft Aether Drift twice,
Yeah, it's true.
with prize
If I
support.
won one, I probably would just host, like, invite people, try to figure out a time to host a draft. You know,
Oh, I would be down there in a heartbeat. Heartbeat, buddy.
I'm sure we
Um,
could find a brewery to put us up.
oh, we're just gonna do it in your basement right there, right back there. It'd be perfect.
Right
Yeah.
there.
All right, Jeff, that's enough other things that are not magic flavored magic sets. Magic flavored sets. Mm. Anyway, let's talk about Tarkir Dragonstorm. We got some new cards, but also more importantly, I think new mechanics. We got lots of new stuff to talk about.
Is that more important? That's a hot take.
That the mechanics are more important. I think it's fun. I like when we get a bunch of different things. Though,
This is a
how
lot of mechanics.
it
Yeah.
is, but how new are some of these? That is the one thing we will kind of
Well,
talk
some of
about.
them well, they range from explicitly not new to
Hmm.
kind of not new
Yeah,
to new.
to new. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so there's basically seven that I've kind of outlined as like new-ish things, and the first one that's on the list is not really a real mechanic. They just kind of decided to make a word for something, which I always want to highlight whenever they decide to make a word for something
Yeah.
because it's like a mechanic we've had in the past in the game, and they just say, hey, you know what? Let's just use this word, and it just condenses stuff. And it is behold, specifically beholding a dragon. So your cards, basically what happens is I think there's a card that just gets cheaper when you either point to a dragon that you have on the battlefield and say, "Hey, I behold this. I beholden it in my hand. That is my dragon," or a dragon in your hand that you are also beholding. Helps you either make things less expensive or supercharges your spell. We already had a card that did this in like another set. It was like a not. It
But
was like a scorching dragonfire type effect. Um,
this was like essentially a mechanic in Dragons of Tarkir. It
oh,
just wrote it
really?
out. Like if you reveal a dragon from your hand or control a dragon when you cast this, Silumgar's Scorn
Or
costs one
something?
less or whatever.
Oh
And there
man,
was a
I
bunch of them.
I feel like I completely missed that altogether. Maybe it's because I didn't play that set. So,
Yeah. And it was good. It was on some good cards. Like it
mhm.
turned it, the Silumgar's Scorn was it was either turns Council into Counterspell, or it was
Ooh,
like turns 2 mana Force Spike into Counterspell. But it was like the card became Counterspell if you were beholding a dragon. And
oh,
so
holy
dragon like
shit!
control deck was very,
Was
very good.
important. That's
And
cool.
it's like I don't care about revealing to you that the known finisher in my control deck
Is the
like
one
is
that
in
you
my
know.
hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like so it just became Counterspell.
that's
Uh,
true.
but this mechanic actually played pretty well. I couldn't tell if you were just like dry delivering that behold joke, but I feel like this this is better if it like only pointed to your hand
To your hand, because I
just for the
beholden it.
just for
Yeah,
the pun factor. Because you're not holding it if it's on the battlefield.
that's true.
Um,
Very, very true. But
but
you
I
can
like
pick
the
up the
name they went
cards.
with.
You can pick up cards on the battlefield. You can be holding
Yeah.
them.
And I like when they do this. I like
Yeah,
when they take something that they know works and instead of writing it, like I feel like they probably have an internal cutoff because I think this probably happened on five or fewer cards in Dragons of Tarkir.
in dragons. Yeah,
Maybe five, but like I want to definitely less than 10 kind of thing.
yeah.
And it was a mechanic that played out pretty well actually. And
Hmm.
so now they're like, let's bring that back, but we want to do it enough times that like we've whatever their internal threshold is, like we have to keyword it if it's on more than 6 cards or whatever
Or
they
whatever.
already figured out.
Well, it's funny you say that because currently, now the as this episode's coming out, we don't have the full image gallery yet. However, we have most of it because that comes out this weekend. But it is on exactly 6 cards, a cycle of 5 at common for all the different colors, and then Sarkhan, Dragon Ascendant,
They like to do
is
that
like
as
the
well,
rare
where
one.
it's like there's the cycle and then
Hmm.
the rare. Um,
Yeah. I
but I
will
feel
say,
like that would often just be written out. You wouldn't
mhm.
necessarily keyword it if it's just a cycle. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
this, it almost makes the cycle feel more unified if it's written out every time.
Hmm. That's true. Um, but yeah, so with these, I mean, I don't think any of these are nearly as strong as the card you were specifically talking about from Dragons of Tarkir. There's some definitely cool ones. I mean, like Caustic Exhale is a single black for an instant, and just says as an additional cost to cast, you could behold the dragon, or you have to pay 1 mana. So it's either cost 1 or 2, and then it's just instant speed. Target creature gets -3/-3. But doing that for 1 mana could be important in something. I do like my 1 mana cards, so that is, of course, the one I first looked at because
Yeah, the
cheap
classic.
is king.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. It's Silumgar's Scorn was blue. As an additional cost, you may reveal a dragon card from your hand. So it's not if you control it, but
Oh
if you do
yes,
that, the the original text is counter unless they pay one, and it just turns into counter it.
counter.
Oh wait, no, hold on.
Okay,
It was what I thought. Okay, blue, Silumgar's Scorn. Let me just fucking read it.
okay,
Instant. As an additional cost to cast Silumgar's Scorn, you may reveal a dragon card from your hand. Counter target spell unless its controller pays one. If you reveal the dragon card or control the dragon as you cast Silumgar's Scorn, counter that spell instead.
gotcha.
So it turned into counter spell, and it is like blue for a force spike without dragons. So it was like
That's
unplayable in
yeah,
non-dragon decks, but in control decks where you had dragon finishers, it basically had behold, this is counter spell. And it
yeah.
was very good.
And that's good to note because we are getting another counterspell. It's called Dispelling Exhale, which is one
Mhm.
in a blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast, you can behold the dragon. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2, and if a dragon was beheld, you can counter it unless they pay 4. So it
Okay.
just
They're
it's
basically narrowing Silumgar's scorn. Instead of being
mhm.
like useless and amazing, it's
It's
like
like
decent and good.
decent to good, I guess. Yeah, it turns like mana leak into like what's that, convolute or something? Um,
Is it
or
mana
no,
leak or is
mana leak
it
is two.
Quen? It turns
Squelch,
quench into convolute.
quench, squelch. What's squelch? It's
But
hard to
honestly,
remember
like
card names
Quench is
sometimes.
often fine in today's Magic because everyone's tapping out every turn to
Hmm.
like curve out. So
It's true, but I don't think you're going to be playing this over some of the other counter spells you can play, like
yeah, there's just
in
too many
Azorius. Like
options.
there's no
Yeah.
way. So we will see in draft, but yeah, I'm glad they added that word behold, and now we could just put it on cards, and you don't even have to have reminder text. It's gonna be amazing, and
Right.
it could be behold anything. It doesn't have to be dragons. It could be behold a squirrel or behold a
Yes, they were smart enough to
food.
think ahead on that one.
Yes, yeah. So that's very good. They often don't do that, so
It's
I'm
like, oh
happy
man, why
when
did we call that mechanic Dragon Sight? Like that
yeah.
was dumb. Now we
Hmm.
have to make a new mechanic every time we want it to have a different creature type.
It's like, come on, guys, come on. They've got it down by now. Um, But the other mechanic that's this is a lot more interesting. I didn't want to spend that much time on Behold, but I'm glad we still did. But we have a new like subtype of I guess it's subtype of instant and sorcery, but it's also like on permanence. And it's for
I
most
want
of
to talk about this one because
okay, I mean I wanna I will definitely let you. Of course.
this
Are
one
you
had
going
me
first?
head scratching when I watched
The announcement video?
the announcement video. I was like, what?
What? So a bunch of dragons in the set, commons and well, just all of them. They have this new thing, quote unquote new. where not only is it a creature, but you can also pay a different cost, and it is a spell. It could be a sorcery or an instant.
Oh, an adventure. They've done that before.
Yeah, except for these are not adventures. They're called omens.
Oh, okay. But
Yeah,
it's an adventure, right?
yeah, kind of. Except for when you cast the sorcery or instant side, instead of it going into exile and you can cast a creature later, you shuffle it in your deck.
Um, that's that seems much worse.
No, no, no. It's not worse because then you could draw it again and then play the instant or sorcery again.
Oh,
When you
of
play it
course, I get to cast the instant part like 5 times and then cast a creature. It's even like
exactly.
way better than adventure. Oh,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
see.
yeah.
I see.
It's so you get to play it more often or more
Okay.
times. Maybe not more often, but um, yeah. I don't know about this one. Is this
Should we read a card? Maybe a
we
card
should
will
it maybe
contextualize this.
maybe it will. Maybe it's kind of confusing. Jeff, do you
It
have a
will
card that you
clear
want to
it
read
all
for
up.
us?
Yeah,
Is this
I want to read one that is not the one that was spoiled because I'm sure people have seen that one.
okay?
So let's just read a different one.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the black one.
Okay.
Um, because I kind of there's something I like about this one, but the black one is Scavenger Regent. It is 3 and a black for a 4/4 creature dragon flying ward. Discard a card. All right, like that's a creature.
Hmm.
Um, but you can also cast it for its omen, Exude Toxin, X black black. Each non-dragon creature gets -X till end of turn. Then you shuffle this into its owner's library.
Whoa.
So you can cast this either as Exude Toxin or as Scavenger Regent. If you cast
Hmm.
Exude Toxin, though, it gets shuffled back in.
So obviously we made the connection with adventures. And the strength of
It has
adventures
the
that
same frame for those who aren't looking at the cards. It has an
yeah, it
adventure design to it.
yeah, so the first thing I want to say is that with adventures, if you play the spell side, you always have the ability to play the creature and you get card advantage. And that was a huge strength of adventures. It was also maybe too strong and has proven to be very strong.
I think the first time they designed it, they
Went overboard.
yeah, they misunderstood the inherent strength of the mechanic, and the second time they went at it, they nailed it. Um,
Right.
but adventure to me was inherently interesting because the card
Hmm.
advantage only comes if you do not deploy your creature to the battlefield
Immediately,
early.
yeah. Hmm.
And so much of Magic right now is about getting on board. So it's
Hmm.
like, hey, do you feel like you have the time to do this? And I think a great, like the best example of that is the Green Black Knight, right? In current standard, where it's
Yeah,
like
Mosswood Dread Knight.
often you just jam that as a now that thing maybe it
It
cheats the rules a
recurs
little
and
bit
yeah.
because but you still have to cast it the same turn. It's always awkward and your opponent gets to kill
Hmm.
it when it's most awkward for you. So like that thing just reminds you time and time again. It's like, oh man, do I want to I feel like I'm missing value if I just cast the creature, but like part of the strength of the card is it's sort of a split card and like I just have to play the creature side. And I think that's kind of inherently interesting. This I like don't think is inherently interesting in the same way. Um, this is a split card.
Well, it's a split card that works pretty well with Brainstorm.
So here's how I think we landed here, right? I think we wanted a creature, an instant or sorcery split card.
Hmm. Yes.
Now we sort of had that in adventure, but they wanted like literally just a split card. The
Hmm.
problem with that, with a creature slash instant or sorcery split card, is when you cast the instant or sorcery, you now have a creature in your graveyard. Because the instant or sorcery like goes on the stack, resolves, does its thing, it has nowhere else to go, it goes to the graveyard. That's why adventure went to the exile. That's why adventure works
Yeah.
the way it does. And this
Hmm.
was like, well, we don't want adventure, we just want like a creature slash instant split card. It has to go somewhere other than the graveyard. Otherwise, it's just, especially with dragons, it's just like reanimator
Hmm.
nonsense where you cast it for its cheap creature instant part and then you reanimate the dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
and they were trying to avoid that. So they're like, I guess it just goes back in the deck, and that seems like how this was designed to me.
Hmm.
And it's just like it reads as like really bad adventure. It reads as like downside on creature slash instant split card because like to me that could be the cool thing about a creature and instant split card if you design them very carefully. Is like
Hmm.
the cool part is that like and the whole like reanimating the creature afterwards is just it's like it's adventure with multiple steps. It's like
Yeah.
I now have to reanimate the creature. So I don't know. This design seems weird and like something they don't do anymore, which is like
Hmm.
take a obvious idea and just slap a downside on it. I
It's
don't get
true
it.
that I think they were trying to see if they could balance adventures a little bit differently, and
And
I
I
mean,
don't
they
get how this
obviously
is an
did that.
omen. Like I know what they're saying is, oh, you saw this card and now it's gonna come back and get you later, but like it's not
Hmm.
really how magic works, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it almost feels like if they wanted to do this as like if this was a digital only mechanic, it would be like you cast the sorcery side, it goes back to your hand, but then no longer has the sorcery thing, but it can still be interacted by your opponent's discard spells or something.
right.
Which is not really that interesting at all. The one thing I will say
It's
about
more
this,
interesting than
well,
this.
I have two things I want to say. The first thing is that I think the frame is very confusing because it looks exactly like an adventure.
Right. Yeah.
And it is especially because we still have adventures and standards, so it just is confusing. And the one thing that they did between sagas and classes, where they had the text box and the art on different parts of the card. So it's like sagas or the text is on the left and art's on the right, and classes are the opposite. And they could have tried to do that with these, where the text box is broken up to two split parts, except for the power and toughness of creatures is always at the bottom right hand
Right.
corner. And
Yeah.
like, do you put that in the middle or do you keep it in the bottom corner? And then I don't know.
No, I think it's just like you did instant sorcery slash creature split with adventure,
Already.
and you did it right the first time, I think.
Yeah,
This is just odd. And I
it
don't get
is
it, and
odd.
I don't understand what like I'm supposed to do with this.
Hmm.
Like, is the idea that I could play creature tutors and go get powerful instants? You
No,
know what I
no, no,
mean?
no, no,
Like,
no.
what is the
So I
what
will
is
say
this?
this does look like a limited mechanic. All right. So it doesn't necessarily look like it's for constructed. Like there's probably cards that they were aiming for constructed or whatever. But I think that it will shine the most in limited because one
Because it's
thing
a
that
split card.
happened. Well, it's a split card, but this specifically different than Adventures is that there was one thing that happened in Aether Drift every once in a while where there wasn't, or this happened in Foundations too. There wasn't a way to shuffle your graveyard into your library, and you could deck yourself through turbo milling yourself, and that would happen often enough. So it would be interesting in matchups where you have an omen that you keep putting in your deck, so you have something to draw every turn, so you don't die. Does
Yes, I
is a
guess, but
thing maybe.
like you're still probably gonna mill it. Like it goes into your deck and you just mill it, and then it's not like
I'm
anytime it goes to the graveyard for it's not the Emrakul thing, you know? So
no, I no. I know that. I'm just saying like in there is there is an upside in limited for it putting going back into your deck is that there are corner cases where it will come up. Not that
yeah,
you're
but it's like what do you
I'm
sandbag this till the end of the game in case it
oh
happens and then
maybe it's
yeah,
late and you draw it and you play it and then you get to win a couple games off of it. I'm just trying to find the upside. There isn't very much upside. I can
I
say
don't get
that.
it.
But I'm just saying that that is something that I think will be
That
cool
seems
when that
pretty
does come up.
slim to
Yeah,
me.
yeah, okay. I am saying it is slim. I'm not saying it's something that's going to happen all the time, but I think it's
Zach, I
pretty
don't know why you
interesting.
keep saying that this is going to define limited, this shuffle back into the graveyard. I
I'm
really
not
don't
saying
think it's
that.
going to be that big a deal.
If this is a really long, grindy format, it will
I know,
become
no,
something.
Sultai self-mill, Zach. I get it, but it's like,
It
jeez.
is also. There's a other teamer cares about stuff too a little bit. It's just what I
Teamer cares
we
about creatures and will just be casting this for its creature side every time.
they also want to draw cards. Whatever, Jeff.
It'll
well,
be good in limited because it's a split card, but like it's not going to be
yes.
anywhere near as good as Adventure was in limited. Like Adventure
No,
was both.
okay, Jeff, I was just trying to say I had one idea of how the shuffling thing could be interesting and limited, and you're shitting all over it. Fine,
Let's talk
okay?
about it more.
Yeah. God, let's move
No,
on.
I just like it
Let's
seems
Jeff.
yeah,
No,
it's
no, Jeff. We're done. Okay, we're done talking about omens. Okay, no more. We will never talk about another omen card on this podcast ever again. It's
the only
done.
thing I was gonna say is I was ready to be proven wrong.
Okay, but you're not. You're gonna be so excited when they're terrible, and you're gonna be
But
like,
what if
"Hey,
they are?
remember? Hey, oh, but you get to put it in your deck." That's what's gonna happen. I
Oh,
know
this
that's.
conversation is going to be resurfaced later at a
Oh
later
God.
episode. One of us is going to be right. There's no way to know who.
I
But
am just trying to find the upside. We're trying to be positive here, Jeff. I'm trying to be positive, okay?
there's no silver
God.
lining on Omen.
Ugh, whatever. Let's go talk about some Jeskai cards, okay?
Cool.
Let's- I need to crack my back of beer after that one. I'm not I can't. I can't. Oh God. Anyway, Jeff, tell us what Flurry is so I can shit all over it.
Okay, so let me just find the right one here. All right, here we have. So, okay, before I get into it, I guess I'll just say what it does. Flurry
Yeah.
is whenever you cast your second spell each turn, something happens, basically. So I actually, off the bat, I kind of dig this mechanic being in this set because
Hmm.
it's like mini storm, right? So like
Yeah.
storm is in the name. There is a card with storm in this set, but this is
Hmm.
sort of like how would might we do storm if limited were what we were considering, or like just with a
Hmm.
more modern sensibility. And probably what they would do is this is just like, hey, if you cast a spell before you cast this, then something. Or like if
Yeah.
you've cast two spells or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the payoff is, obviously varies wildly, but essentially it's kind of like, hey, in this Dragonstorm set, we put like fixed storm or mini storm or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really neat. And
I want to call
so,
it a flurry. I want to call it flurry. That's what
no, you can't do that. But there are like other examples. So, okay, so let me read a flurry card. I'm
Hmm.
going to read the least complicated flurry card that I saw,
Great.
which is Tygam Master Opportunist, one in a blue for 2/2 with flurry. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy it, then exile the spell you cast with 4 time counters on it. If it doesn't have suspend, it gains suspend. So I think it's pretty
Nice.
clear how that works.
Yeah, yeah,
And
super. Like you know what? Honestly, I think that they should start printing more cards that like do more things because we've seen this card so many times. This is like in every set. Like
yeah,
I'm so tired of having this specific thing happen all the time. Like my spells are constantly getting copied and getting 4 time counters on them, and they gain suspend. And I'm just
and
like,
like the copy resolves now, and the one I actually cast is the one that goes off to the side because that's how
exactly,
it makes
yeah.
sense.
That's how it works.
I'm just
And then
used to
that
that being normal.
Yeah, well, like obviously. And then you get a whole thing where you start to play the original versions of it, but then you get to cast other copies of things that then go and get suspended, and you get
Just
to keep doing that.
classic limited stuff.
This is just normal bread and butter magic. If you don't know how that works, you should just give up.
Yeah,
Sorry, obviously that's the most complicated fucking flurry card that there is, and it's
they're
we
spoiled
sat.
so far.
It has, yeah, that's true. There could be more. So, all right.
But it's whenever you cast your second spell, right? Like,
Yes, whenever you cast your second spell, a bunch of fucking crazy shit happens. And then you just hope the game goes really long so you get to keep this up forever. And this guy never dies, essentially.
oh yeah, man, if this guy doesn't die. Um,
Yeah.
but it is second spell. There's also reverse flurry, sort of, which I wanted to call out Sage of the Skies for this one because
Hmm.
they also put in a card, Sage of the Skies, 2 and a white for a 2/3 flying lifelink. Whenever you cast this spell, if you've cast another spell this turn, copy this spell. So
Yes.
this one wants to be I mean, I guess in principle it could be the third or the fourth or fifth or
Hmm.
whatever. But the idea is this wants to be your second spell for Flurry.
Yes.
That's why I'm thinking of it as like reverse Flurry. But I thought that design was kind of cute as well because it's like you could also kind of do it backwards, and the
Hmm.
in some sense, like the payoffs could either be thought of as cards with powerful Flurry abilities or
Or
like
mhm.
cards that want to incentivize you to Flurry.
Yes. And this with Tygam
That'd
sounds
be
really fun,
I don't even know what happens if if you do that.
right? Well, your turn five is you play Tygam and then you play this, right? I guess you could go two into three, but the safest version would be
Uh,
Tygam. Oh
yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
because it wouldn't work. It wouldn't
Yeah,
work if you
you
did
don't
two
do
or
two
three.
into three.
You have to
That'd be a
do
two
fives.
two
Yeah,
into a two three.
yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right. Sorry. You have to do this on turn five. So you play Tygam, you play Sage of the Skies. Tygam exiles Sage of the Skies and makes a copy of it that goes on the stack. You also make another copy because this was cast, and so you have a copy of Sage of the Skies from Sage of the Skies and a copy
Mhm.
of Sage of the Skies from Tygam.
Yeah,
Those both enter, and now you have your 2/2 and then two flying 2/3s with lifelink
and a Sage of the Skies with suspend
and four time counters on
four time,
it.
and then you want like an instant so that when that's going to come down, you peg
Then
them. And
you get them again,
yeah,
or another Sage of the Skies, which I guess yeah you could still do that because this Sage of the Skies comes in first, and then you play the other one, and then
yeah,
keep
the other one would work, and then Tygam would trigger that one too.
exactly yeah.
Yeah.
Um, lots of
If you had an
weirdness with those
instant
two
though, they
cards.
would both double because this doesn't need to specifically be the second spell
That
for
is
this
true.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
But then you wouldn't get the
Yeah.
Tygam copy. Whoa, wait.
No,
If you
you
instant,
still do.
you get the
Wait.
Tygam copy on this. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but the instant has to be yeah at your upkeep when this is coming into the
Of
battlefield.
course, of course. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like super obvious, guys.
Just in response to the last time counter being taken off, like, which we don't really have suspend cards in Arena, do we?
Uh,
Oh no, we do. We
we
do.
do. Yeah.
We have the crashing footfalls and yeah. Okay. Um, but anyway, I'm glad we got to talk
So,
about that little
so
thing.
that's Flurry.
Yeah.
That's your typical Flurry
Just a
sequence.
normal flurry monk attack, flurry of fists, just something crazy happening. But I will say, just what I really wanted to say about this mechanic before I went into that fucking rabbit hole was that I once again like that we've had this mechanic before, right? We've had the cast two spells in your turn, something happens, this gets a counter, you get 1/1, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just adding a really simple name like Flurry, it makes sense for everything. You can put this in whatever set you want. Like
And
this
it
will,
feels very Jeskai, like
yeah,
just, and it's very flexible. You can have Flurry trigger whatever.
exactly.
Um,
And it's being coined in a Magic set, Tarkir. So when we put it in Universes Beyond, it'll feel like we're getting a callback to a Magic set, and that's
mm,
a thing that I
that's why you name things. Makes
that's why you name
sense.
things. Yeah, there. So anyway, um, pretty cool, but definitely not my favorite one of the mechanics we're talking about. Um, it's like yeah, we've kind of done that, but I'm glad it has a name now. Sweet.
And
Um,
there are players that love this kind of thing. It's just like that's not us, you know.
mhm.
Like,
I mean, I do enjoy doing that stuff, but yeah, it's
yeah, I
not
mean, you
always.
like casting a lot of like one drop creatures in the same turn, but I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's not the same as specifically just playing two. I have to play only two. Oh, come on. I don't get
yeah.
extra on top of that. What? What? Mardu, which is, I guess we're kind of saying these words as if you know what they are. Jeskai is, of course, uh, red, white, and blue, and Mardu is red, white, black. But they have an interesting ability that I like what we're seeing with the different ways you can trigger this and do this.
I like this one.
I think this one's really cool. So this is mobilize, and this is an ability that has a number afterwards. So it's like mobilize one or two or three or whatever. Mobilize X. And so I'm just going to talk about probably one of the just basicest ones, but of course I'm going to talk about one that I like for limited. But I'm talking about these Oxes, Dalkovan Pack Beasts. Very simple. After a really
Okay.
complicated card, let's talk about a simple card. It's just two and a white for a 0/4 creature Ox with Vigilance. It's uncommon and it has Mobilize 3. And what
Ooh.
Mobilize does is it says whenever this creature attacks, create three tapped and attacking 1/1 red warrior creature tokens, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. So this is an Ox that pulls three warriors with it, and they just get to go swing into your opponent. And then you're always kind of deciding whether you just like block and kill the Ox or or and lose life or just kill the tokens that are be gone like going to be gone at the end of the turn. But this isn't one of the reasons why I like this card. I just like being able to make tokens every turn and a pretty good number of them oftentimes. And
Mobilize
there's a
3 is huge.
Mobilize 3 is one of the biggest ones. And there's a bunch of cool different things you can do with your tokens. In the set, there's different cards that give them tokens gain death touch or ways to keep the tokens around at the end of the turn, cards that let you sacrifice tokens to draw cards. So you don't always have to try to get in damage. There's all these other fun little things you can do with those tokens. And I think that's going to be really exciting for limited specifically. This doesn't look like a mechanic that's really gonna get there in constructed. It seems like there are a couple cards that it will like come up, but I don't know if it's gonna be like you're not gonna see mobilized decks in standard.
No,
But
I
I
think where it's interesting to me is that usually mechanics like this in modern times will like exile them, and this explicitly says sacrifice. So
mhm,
in my aristocrats deck, I
that's
like
true.
the idea
Ooh,
that I'm making these tokens
hmm
for, pennies on the dollar based on what it should cost to make multiple tokens a turn.
hmm
And this kind of thing puts your opponent in a bind when you have a blood artist that's always like, I literally don't care if you block or not
hmm
because like it's gonna die and you're gonna
I
take the
want it to
damage.
die.
I guess if you block it, you take one from the ping. If you take the
Hmm
damage, you take it, and then it pings you on end step anyways. So
Yeah. So then you can take two, so you might as well just block and
and so it
maybe
opens
it
up
have
these
other
like
things, but
massive attacks. So you would need for this to be played in standard, you need something pretty pushed, like a
hmm
creature that really puts pressure on or is like inherently good, and then the mobilize is stapled onto it, which I don't
yes.
know that I've seen one yet, and if we're going to, but I think it's a really cool limited mechanic for the reasons that you explained as well, where it's like it's really easy to make this not just about attacking or blocking, like the the tokens only being there for a turn leads to some
hmm
interesting ways to play, but also the baseline is just overwhelm. And I
hmm
and I like that too.
Yeah.
Like the classic Mardu, like just get them. You're just attacking
Yeah.
for a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Like
And this is a great way to make a bunch of creatures that do things, but they don't gum up the board,
yeah,
right? Like that was Mardu in
original
like
original
original
cons. Yeah,
would usually make a bunch of 1/1s that could block a bunch of 6/6 vigilance things or whatever morph stuff. That's one thing. There's no morph. That's that we didn't really bring that up at the beginning, but I'm just realizing right now. Um, and I'm
yeah.
honestly happy with. Morph last year was fine, but I'm uh I'm okay with it being done. I
It
had
would
my fun.
just yeah. We know what Morph does in a tricolor set. It facilitates it because it like lets you play
Hmm
creatures when you can't get your mana together. Let's explore something else.
Yeah, not honestly not the most fun thing. Yeah. Um, I think when you're talking about cards that could be something that I wouldn't be surprised to see if there was like a mono white or close to mono white deck that was playing some hate bears again. You could play Voice of Victory, which is one and white for a 1/3 human bard at rare. It has mobilize two, but the hate bear part is your opponents can't cast spells during your turn.
Right. Yeah, this is the
So,
most pushed one I think I've seen.
mhm. And you could just play that for that. You want that ability, like in your sideboard or something. You might just play this
Yeah,
card.
right. totally.
against I mean, like probably flat, like blue black flash decks, or if you're really worried about instant speed removal. But it is very helpful that you can just attack with impunity and be like, I know what's going to happen. So that is nice.
Sometimes I have to separate out the like, is this good or is it just like nice? It makes me feel good. Like I don't have
I
to worry or
okay,
anything.
I do get that for sure.
I
That
fall for that all the time. Where I'm just like, yeah, that card was great. And then I think back, I'm like, I don't know if that card changed the outcome. It just made me like feel better about
it
the
just made
attack, you know?
yeah,
Like,
mentally I just didn't have to play around anything. At
yeah.
least during the attack, I was like, I'm gonna get my damage in. That's happening.
I'm
So I do
wondering if
like
this
that part
card
of
is
it.
like falling into that category. But
Well, we'll
you know
have
what?
to find
Again,
out.
can't wait to lose to this card a bunch and then complain about how obviously broken it is.
Wow, Jeff, are you a Magic player? That's
Yeah,
crazy. Oh,
yeah.
that's such a weird. But
Can't
I
believe
think so.
Wizards would ever print this, and or you know, like, like I can't believe Wizards would ever print this either because it's obviously broken or because it's obviously terrible.
Yeah.
I
Or
don't know which
obviously
one it
meh.
is
What
yet.
am I supposed to? What can I put this in my deck? No, obviously meh, not good enough.
Yeah,
At least try. At least try to make it good. If you
right.
fail, I don't care. But the moving goalposts of people's I guess barometers or how they feel about different cards, kind of depending on the day and if they're winning or losing. Anyway, so far I think Mobilize is the one that I do like the most. I also like aggressive Mardu decks, so you can't get too
Yeah,
upset with me for that one. But yeah.
Oros mobilized, baby. Let's see it.
hmm but going into our next mechanic, we were talking about Abzan cards, which is another mechanic that is a little bit of a twist of an older one, and I can't tell if this one's like good or like I whether it's worse than the original mechanic. I think it's probably worse.
Okay, so let's look at Sinkhole Surveyor. It's one in a black for a 1/3 flyer, and when it attacks, you lose one life, and this creature endures one, which is put a +1/+1 counter on it, or create a 1/1 white spirit creature token.
Doesn't have
So,
flying. That's one thing. The creature token that's made doesn't have flying,
oh, I was
which
like, the card doesn't have flying? That's insane. It's a
no,
huge
no,
bird.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
Sorry. Um, spirits in general, I always think they are 1/1 flying spirits.
Yeah.
These ones do not. So I just want to remind everyone because it's gonna come up in the pre-release, I'm
And
sure.
that strongly changes the valuation of this. So if you're like thinking of this mechanic being like, dude, are you guys crazy? It's awesome.
Hmm.
Might be thinking that that token has flying. And
Yes.
no, I thought the same thing because I'm just like a lingering souls kind of guy. You know what I
It's
mean?
well, yeah,
Like,
yeah. Who
yeah,
isn't? Who isn't? Um, I will say so. This specific card I think is awesome. I really like this a lot because you get more cardboard on it, and that's a sweet card for limited. You do have to lose life, but getting cardboard or building this up to be a strong flyer, both awesome things. So in general, I think this is pretty cool. The way that Endure works is that there's a number on it. So this one's Endure 1, but there's Endure 2 and 3 and a bunch of X and all the same thing as we were talking about with Mobilize. And it's a very similar mechanic to Fabricate. So Fabricate was from Kaladesh, and when the creature entered, almost always, right? I don't think you could just fabricate a creature. Where this one has a little bit more utility if you can continue to do it. But either it would get +1/+1 counters or make servo tokens, and those are the two things you could do. And the servo tokens, the number of them was equal to the +1/+1 counters. This one is not the case. So if a creature enters and endures for 3, you can either put 3 +1/+1 counters on it or make a 3/3 instead of 3 1/1s.
mm,
And so, you know, whether a 3/3 is better than 3 1/1s, I know I generally would rather have more bodies. That just tends to be really useful. So this
yeah.
is why I was kind of like, is Fabricate just better? But I think there's a bit more design space with Endure, so maybe I was kind of wrong saying that. because you get to do this multiple times, possibly.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like instead of an ETB, it's sort of triggered. It's
Well, it
like
couldn't be
triggered.
triggered. Like they do
It
have
could be triggered
ETBs
by
with it. Yeah.
ETB, but like
Hmm.
fabricate was always
Always.
ETB.
Yeah.
This is like triggered fabricate, but it's slightly
Hmm.
the actual ability is slightly worse, I think, unbalanced than fabricate, like you're saying. Yeah, okay. I see where you're coming from.
Whether that's like really, I mean, like the fact that most of the good endure cards get to do it multiple times is a big upside. Uh,
Yeah, for
Compared to
sure.
the fabricate ones. But in general, I was really happy with fabricate because I almost always wanted to make the tokens. That was like the big reason I liked fabricate. It's like, yeah, sweet. This enters and I get like 2 or 3 tokens with it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so being like, oh, I only like can really get one,
But it's also like the
but I
the
can do it
the
multiple times.
ETB versus the creature has to live. Like maybe some of them will ETB, of course, but this card
They,
in
yeah,
particular, sinkholes are very like it's just a 1/3 flying
it's true.
unless it gets to attack. So it doesn't get its money on the way in.
But it's
I don't love
also,
that. I don't love
yes.
that. This is obviously a super strong limited card, but like for constructed, is this a constructed mechanic when you don't get your
No,
money on the way in?
definitely not. No. Why would I tell you to read a card? I like this because I get more cardboard, and that's great, and I can do it multiple
I,
times.
I know,
That's
but
why I
I'm
like
worried
this
about the
card.
mechanic in general.
Oh, yes, in
Like,
general,
is
yeah,
it going
yeah.
to be constructed like
Playable.
Anafenza, for example? I'm
Hmm.
interested in Anafenza,
Hmm.
which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 flash for a strike. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, it endures 2. I'm into
Hmm.
that, but I'm reading it as like replacing my creatures that die that I
Hmm.
sacrifice with I don't know whatever another token.
That's true.
Replacing it with 2 tokens would be way fucking better. But all right,
Yeah.
replacing it with 1 token is decent. And if like I sack the token, then I also get some counters and stuff. So or sorry, like
Yeah.
if I don't have a reason to want the token, I could put some
Right.
counters on something. Like if I don't have a
Yes.
blood artist or
Sorry.
whatever.
Yeah. Sorry. Thinking about playing aristocrats sack deck in standard. Yes, I can.
But like I think in general, endure is not really a constructed mechanic because you don't get your money on the way in, and that's what constructed is kind of all about.
Yeah. Yes. And the ones that you do get the money on the way in are not constructed cards. They're definitely limited cards.
Not so far.
Yeah. So yeah, I think in general, +1/+1 counter stuff is not always my favorite thing, but I'm just gonna say I like Sinkhole Surveyor. I think it's cool, and it's one of those cards that's not going to be a lightning rod for removal because it doesn't do a ton of shit. So I like it.
I was just going to say, I think the Abzan reinterpretation of Fabricate is also interesting in and of its own right, where
It's
it's
true.
like,
It's
hey,
true.
Fabricate was this mechanic. It works for Abzan, except that Fabricate makes servos. I think that's
Hmm.
kind of what's happening here. It's like, oh man, Fabricate was a perfect Abzan mechanic,
Hmm.
except that it makes like weird colorless servos. So we
Yeah,
need to redesign it and make it feel unique. And
exactly.
my guess is that's basically what happened. Is they're like, yeah,
Yeah, so far we have, let's reimagine adventure. Let's reimagine what? Storm? But no, just draw to whatever. That was
it's
reimagined-ish.
almost like I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say it's sort of another take on prowess, but it's I guess it's sufficiently different from prowess. It's sort of like
It's definitely different than prowess, but it is the unnamed play 2 spells in a turn mechanic that we've had many
right.
times
It's like
before.
yeah, we've seen this type of thing.
Yeah. Same as so a lot of things we've seen before. This one starts to be a little bit different. But we're going to continue into things that we've seen before. Though I think this one, as we move on to Soul Tie,
This next one
yeah,
promises to be new. So tell me
promises
about
to
it.
be new. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is renew. So it's not just new, but it's renew something else. All right, so whether this is like the best card or not, I'm just going to read this card because it looks cool. But don't. All right, so don't get mad. Though I
I'm
do not know
already
how to.
upset about how you're going to say this is going to define the limited
I
environment.
have never said the words define the limited environment until now, and then you're going to take that and you're gonna splice that into a video, make
Oh,
it
if I knew
so
how
I
to
say
do
that.
that, I would do it immediately.
Thank God you don't. Anyway, I don't really know how to pronounce this name, which is awkward, but I think it says Lacid Prowler. This is a green card. It's 2 green green for a 5/5 creature snake ranger at rare. All right, so 4 mana 5/5. Sweet, that's good. When this creature enters, you may mill cards equal to the number of lands you control. So at least 4. That's sweet. And then it has the renew ability. It's a keyword ability. And it says you can pay 1 and a green and exile this card from your graveyard. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is this weird like lands matter thing where it's like you're playing a mill deck that cares about not only lands on your battlefield but also in your graveyard for both the mill ability and the renew ability where you're putting counters on other things if this has been milled and in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So interesting. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with this, but I like the design of this. I think it's an interesting design of a card.
Yeah. I think like, surface level design is like, hey, this is a 4 mana 5/5 that mills you. Hopefully it puts some lands into your graveyard when it does that. Then when
Yeah.
it dies, it turns like you can get it back, and because it milled some lands on its own. Um, cool. But in principle, I guess I guess it's really just that though, right? Like
It's
you're
really just a card that like it goes into a mill deck, even though it's kind of expensive for it. And but if it's in your graveyard, you can just supercharge your other cards
right.
if you
I
have a
think
bunch of lands.
that's yeah. Like how excited are we for the 4 mana 5/5 here? You know what I
No,
mean?
no,
Like
no, no. I think that's just the oh, I
it's just to
guess I
give you
drew it.
something that's like the hey, fail case. That's the failed case, I
Yes,
guess. Yeah.
it is the fail
Okay.
case.
I get it now. Yeah.
You
Had to
want this
had
to
to
be milled, I think.
had to talk through it myself to be like, okay,
Hmm.
wait, where are we going at here? But yeah, okay. I see what you're saying. Um, it's definitely a neat card.
It's definitely neat. And that's all I'm talking about here. We're talking about
Love
neat
it.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could play this with the other some of the mill stuff that we had in Aether Drift and even this set, and see where we go. Whether this is like this is obviously just a player. This is not like the reason you like build the deck. You're like sick. I put 5 +1/+1 counters on something. Like that's not a huge thing, but every once in a while it'll be helpful. So one of fun of maybe two copies, twice the fun. Maybe is that a thing?
Maybe. Yeah. Well,
Maybe
we'll workshop it.
we'll workshop it.
Yeah.
Anyway, this card goes in your like commander decks for sure. If you're playing like a mill commander deck with
Oh man, yeah,
land
you have so
specifically.
many fucking lands in your graveyard and
Yeah.
commanders. So.
So yeah, if you play enough of them, hopefully this will be sweet. So anyway, I just liked that was
You're
something.
right. Most commander players don't play enough lands. So.
No, that's like a classic rib on the commander player. Um, though I don't want to get too deep into the ribbing commander players for not playing enough lands because I'm classically playing 21 lands all the time.
In commander, are you crazy? Yeah.
It's like half as many as you're supposed to play. Um, but no, in general, I think like renew as a mechanic is pretty interesting, just with because there's so many different things these do. Well, they always put +1/+1 counters on something, but they're also putting other counters on things because we have so many more stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a variant of Scavenge, which was in one of like the second Ravnica set had Scavenge for Golgari.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
and
Whichever one Golgari was in.
yeah, and they classically did the thing where um, the scavenge cost could be pretty expensive because it always said put +1/+1 counters on this creature equal to this creature's power kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like the design space was kind of tied to like there's so many things interconnected that you just didn't have as many knobs to turn. Um,
It was
and this
always
just
just
feels
creatures, right? The Golgari thing was always everything cares about how many creatures are in your graveyard. And
yeah, no, but I thought that scavenge is specifically it was just the power of the like you get +1/+1 counters equal to your power. But oh,
yeah,
but
yeah, but
yes.
then other stuff that cared about self-mill was also cared about how many creatures you had. So it's very much like build a deck with a fuck ton of creatures that also
Hmm.
mills itself. And it's like it's
Yeah,
not easy to do that.
exactly. And then also those creatures that are in your graveyard only put power and toughness on the board and nothing else.
Right.
So
Yeah.
this one, luckily, there's a bunch of cards that there are ones that put flying counters on stuff or death touch counters, or you get we just have more counters to put on things,
Right.
um, which adds
I
to
like
the
that.
fun
Think
of
of
what this
this
can
of
be.
like an evolution of Scavenge as the game has
Yeah,
evolved. This
and like a much
idea
better
has
one.
evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems much better. I'm still not the most excited about this mechanic
Well,
necessarily
no.
out of this set, but I get it now. I get it
Yeah.
more than I think I did coming in. Like describing it that way is,
Hmm.
we have more. Scavenge has more to offer now, and we have learned from past
Past
mistakes. And like
mistakes, which
here's the new
yeah,
version of it. I think that makes
like
a lot of sense.
if you've ever looked at a scavenge card before, they're just I don't think they did anything, and they were just kind of not. They're just not exciting. Like
Yeah, they're bad.
I every like scavenge is like a. I'm not going to say this rudely, but like this is the cards that you find in your dollar store packs. You know, it's like, oh right, this card didn't do anything. This is here. Um,
Yeah, it was a bit of a whiff of a mechanic.
yeah. So it's and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they were forced to put they were forced to make it so that the creatures the costs were just too expensive because they found that like literally looking at Dreg Mangler is a 3 mana 3/3 with haste, but its dredge or scavenge cost is 5 because you're putting 3 +1/+1 counters on something.
Right.
Because they're like, well, putting 3 +1/+1 counters on something, that's a lot. But like if this had our new ability, renew, it could just give one, and then it could be a much more playable card where you're just like, yeah, okay, we get to we it just isn't prohibitively expensive to do this
Yeah,
thing,
we
which
get to
is
get in there and then actually
mhm,
reasonably cast this later in the game. Or like,
yeah, which is just it's such a classic Golgari thing to either have like the most expensive, horrible mechanic or
yeah,
the most busted thing that you could ever possibly do. And I think
dredge.
that's actually, well, yeah, because Dredge was the first Golgari mechanic and it it was like free and it wrecked stuff so much
Turns
that
out
they're
like
like,
free ways to change the rules of the game are
mhm,
pretty strong.
yeah. So they're like, here, instead of that, here's a 7 mana 5/5 that's vanilla. And and it has scavenge for 7 mana.
Yeah.
So have fun with that card. You're like, oh, sorry, Golgari
Have fun
player.
breaking this,
Yeah,
nerds.
fuck you. Like that's basically what scavenge was to me. So this feels way better. Like I'm
And I
just so
love the
much
name that
happier.
it's Renew. It's like it's like
Yeah,
Golgari had had this
it's
have this path in life where they came in hot and then they got nerfed into the ground and now it's like okay
mhm.
let's give Golgari a chance.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think Ogari has a chance now with this new mechanic. Whether it actually makes it into standard, I think there could probably be one card that renew like
Yeah.
gets into standard, but we'll have to wait and see. Probably not the one I picked out to talk about, but when am I going to
Um,
pick a card that's going to be good? I don't know.
yeah,
I
I don't
I just
know.
want to. Nobody talks about that. Whatever.
Yeah.
I've had a couple beers, so
You've never
Jeff.
once picked a card that people weren't expecting to be good that ended up being good in limited. Never seen it happen. So the the last one is the teamer ability, which is harmonize. And so I feel like the only correct card out of the spoilers to read here is Winter Night Stories. So Winter Night
Okay.
Stories is 2 and a blue sorcery. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a creature card. But it has Harmonize. Harmonize for 4 and a blue, which means you may cast this card from its graveyard for its Harmonize cost, and you may tap a creature you control to reduce the cost by X, where X is its power, then exile this spell. Um, yeah, so this is like flashback convoke, I guess.
Yes.
Like that's kind of cool for Teamer because it's like we care about we're like a creature deck that cares about blue. I think that's kind of rad. And on this
Hmm.
card, draws 3 cards. There's literally in Magic, the card Harmonize draws 3 cards. So I think this is
Oh,
a callback to that,
I
and
did not
I
pick up on
like it.
that. The reason I didn't pick up on that because this card looks like fuck. I actually don't have the name of this card in my back pocket. It was in Mirrodin, original Mirrodin. Fuck me. But I thought this was
Oh yeah, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. God,
yeah,
unless you discard an artifact,
an
right?
artifact. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thirst for
This
knowledge.
thirst for knowledge. That's what I thought
Yeah,
this card was. But I love the harmonize comparison with that because harmonize was a green card that was whatever fate shifted or color
right.
shifted.
It was when they were messing with the color pie, they printed a card that just draws 3 cards in
Yeah.
green. It was called Harmonize.
Hmm. It's a command. It used to be a commander staple. I don't think it's good enough anymore, but that
Right.
was
It's like 4 mana sorcery, I think. I don't know if
yeah,
it's
it
an
is.
instant,
It's two
but
green green.
yeah.
Um, but they it's the classic one where people like, look, this is where green diverged from doing this to now drawing a bunch of cards.
Yeah, but
You
now all green creatures just like draw cards naturally, so you don't need that
well,
anymore.
they
But
also realize that every color needs to have card advantage. You can't just give it to one, right?
yeah,
That's just drawing cards is too strong of an ability to just not let other cards or colors do it. So
yeah.
turns out. But Thirst for Knowledge was a really big card in that standard format and really important. That with like Thoughtcast, but um,
Yeah, yeah, you're totally right. It has a thirst for knowledge feel to it as well. Um,
mhm.
I
But the
just,
fact that they put Harmonize on the card, I think is I did not notice that, and I love that. And as for sure, like they were like, okay, well, we have to have one of these, but let's just not make it green, but heart like
yeah,
call back to that.
and they made it a sorcery, and I like the overall design of like this incentivizes you to play creatures on multiple levels because it has the like, hey, you discard a creature, you get ahead, but
Hmm.
also I want you to
If
have
you,
creatures for my harmonize ability.
yeah,
So it's
for
like,
later, right?
yeah. So it's like you want me in a creature deck, like
Hmm.
for sure. But also like it's there's that weird thing where it's like I kind of want to discard my second copy of Winter Night Stories to this because
Hmm.
then I have it in my graveyard to harmonize. But if I do that, I have to discard 2 cards.
Two cards, and
Not.
then how good was my first Winternet Stories?
And
It's
I
true.
believe from playing Thirst for Knowledge, I believe you are allowed to discard a creature and a second Winter Night Stories if you
Oh,
want
if
to.
you want to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You
That will
basically
be
have to
interesting.
choose like discard 2 or discard a creature. So, and
Ah.
you can discard a creature as part of the two. It's just like it doesn't come up often,
So on
but
Arena,
it's.
how do you do that? Because I'm pretty sure if you click the creature first,
I
it'll be
think it
like it'll gray
says
everything
like,
out.
do you want to? I think it's going to say, do you want to discard two cards or a creature? And then you go,
Oh, I feel like usually when we have cards, there was another one, Basic Instinct, or what the hell was that card called? Where you
like
discard
I think.
basic lands or
Sorry,
something.
I think the way it'll work is if you click a creature in your hand, you'll get the option on the right, discard this creature, or like, you know
Oh,
what I
that's
mean?
what you're
And
saying.
then a grayed out discard two cards. And then when you click the second card, you can now select the
It'll
discard two
discard
cards
two
option.
cards.
I
Oh, I see what you're
think,
saying. I was thinking that you had to pick the non-creature first and then the creature after if you want to discard both.
hey, maybe. Like
We will
I don't
have to
want to
find
give
this
the
out.
arena devs too much credit, but the way it should
It's
probably
true.
work
Yeah,
is
yeah.
if you click a creature, it will now give you the option discard just one card, but
Or
there will
two.
be a grayed out option of like
Hmm.
discard two cards, and when you click the second, that will become available.
Become available. Well, we will have to get back to you folks on whether how that works. Because I'm definitely gonna just fire it up to figure out if that's like how that
Zach
specifically
somehow
works.
like discards his hand. Like, no,
Wait, what?
how did
I
that happen?
discarded four creatures. um, but yeah, no, I like that. That's cool. And the whole like having these different variants of old tried and true abilities. Flashback, amazing ability. Convoke, also a great ability. And this is like, hey, you want big creatures, not just a bunch of creatures, right? Because
Yeah,
normally, obviously, with Convoke, you want a ton of creatures, you get to play your shit for free. And this is like, you can never play anything for free because everything has a color cost. But if you have big creatures, it could cost nothing, almost nothing. Um, so
yeah.
that is a cool way of having your ferocious creatures. Like it's another way for ferocious to matter because a lot of these harmonized cards are like four or five. You,
Yeah.
they kind of tell you want to get close to that. So I like that. I think
I
it's
think
cool.
Harmonize is maybe the most unique one, like in terms of not similar to something we've seen. Even though it is a mashup of two things, it's like, but the
Yeah,
two
like
things were like polar opposites, right? It's like
mhm.
uh flashback is always on instants and sorceries, and it wants you to play a lot of that. And then convoke is asking you to have a lot of creatures. So I think it's
Right. Okay, I get it. So that because to this deck, the teamer deck, there are creatures that care about playing both a creature and a non-creature in the same turn.
right.
Um,
And um I don't know, I think it's just like a really interesting new take on
mhm.
flashback, which
On
is
flashback.
flashback decks are usually like you want to have a lots of instant sorceries, control deck kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
that's what makes it takes advantage of this. And to say like, hey, yeah, you could flash this back. It's fucking expensive as shit unless you have a bunch of creatures though.
Yeah.
I
Or
like
just
that idea.
one, or like one big one, which I think is
Right.
cool too.
Yeah.
Because you are playing like, hey, I don't want a bunch of tokens that just like chump block and stuff. I want a sizable creature, an important one.
True.
Like this, I'm going to read one more card that's very similar to the one that you read. Um, but Unending Whisper is a common. It's a single blue. It's a sorcery, and it just says draw a card, and you can harmonize it for 6 mana, five and a blue.
Oh boy.
So, but this card reminds me of Whispers of the Muse, even though it doesn't have buyback. But that
Mm.
was a card that was a cantrip that you could play it again, but you had to pay a really huge amount of mana into
Okay.
it, right?
See,
Um,
it makes me think of think twice, but it's like you want to have it's think twice, but you want to have creatures.
that's true. That probably is better than Whispers of a Muse as far as like a comparison.
Like think
So
twice is a pretty good card in a spells deck, right? In a
yeah.
control deck,
Mhm.
because think twice itself is
It's
like
five
bad
mana
divination, but you
altogether.
get to split it up, so it's much better
Yeah.
than divination.
Mhm. This is
Uh,
7 mana for the same thing, unless you have a creature,
Yeah.
and then it's
Then
less,
it could be
and
two mana.
then it could be 5 mana,
Yeah.
like think twice.
Yeah.
Though the thing is that it says unending whisper. This should have buyback. It should just continue to. You
Right.
should be able to
It
do
it
something.
ends. It
It
very
ends.
clearly exiles itself. So
Yeah. Oh. Anyway,
um
yeah.
I think,
I Go
you go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, Jeff. No, 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 no. I'm going to give it to you.
Okay. I was gonna have my last thoughts before last call. So
That's perfect because that's what I want to
okay.
do too.
Awesome. So we talked, I think it's interesting that we talked about renew and scavenge
Hmm.
because one of the things this makes me think of is those Ravnica sets.
Hmm.
Um, where a lot of the criticism, or a lot of the criticism around that time was that all of the mechanics for all the guilds were kind of just rehashed things they had done before.
Hmm.
And I think everyone knew Scavenge sucked, but like
Hmm.
for the most part, all of those played really well. Like I think the shining example of that was people came at them at Wizards hard for the Demir mechanic because it was just a new scry. And that mechanic was Surveil.
Hmm.
And that's a great mechanic and a
Hmm.
strong improvement on scry that we now has just become evergreen, you know?
Hmm.
And so slight tweaks on mechanics that existed. I don't have an issue with that anymore after that showing me
After
that
the
like, hey,
surveil, yeah.
this is a real thing. Like slight tweaks, but also like flavor shifts at the same
Hmm.
time can make a huge difference. And so, when I see this stuff, like, yeah, they had to make a lot of mechanics because they kind of like tied themselves to making a new mechanic for every, guild back then,
Yeah.
but now it's, every con. And it's like, you have to do something. So
Hmm.
where are they going to go? They're going to go to the tank and look at old mechanics that maybe they didn't get right,
Yeah.
or that the flavor wasn't quite right, or that they could tweak. And
Hmm.
so I look at this list and I think the easy thing to say is, it's all like rehashed stuff we've kind of seen before. But hey, man, I've seen that be super successful in the past and like
Hmm.
really change the game. So
Yeah.
slight
Hey.
tweaks on good mechanics or even bad mechanics sometimes
Mhm.
become great mechanics.
You're right. Like Omen is going to be amazing because like
Yeah,
it's just a
it's
tweak
going to
on.
define the limited format, is what I hear. So,
But no, I definitely agree. Like I remember around the surveil time of that being like that weird thing where everyone was like, this is just the same. I think it was also because they were trying to make like a, hey, surveil matters was the draft
right.
archetype, which is was cool, but not where you want to be as far as like Magic has learned since then that like if you have a mechanic like that, you have to find different ways to care about it as opposed to just if a card says
Right.
the word surveil, then you get to do something.
Yeah.
That also happened in Lord of the Rings with hey, if your elves scry, then this happens. Like
Right.
scrying matters is not exciting. So I think they've kind of learned from those mistakes.
They'll keep trying it because it's an idea that designers like and that players don't care about. So, like, every once in a while, they'll do something like that. It's like, oh man.
Totally.
But when the elf scries, they're going to think that's really flavorful and fun and stuff. I'm like, no, no, we just don't want scry matters.
Yeah, we just don't want random new mechanic matters or random mechanic matters.
Right.
Like it's just not really fun. So it's like, hey, when you have your final fantasy, this happens or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I don't
No,
want that.
no, no, no. No. When you collect all 15 fantasies, like just whatever. Like I just it doesn't matter to me. So, but I think that these are all great. Omen, I'm hoping will be better in limited, but was probably not going to be super exciting. But
Right.
we will see. So I think that is a sorry, after a tangent of bullshit as usual. Um, I think you're absolutely right. This is a lot of these do feel like rehashes, but either updated text to make these a little bit cleaner,
Mhm.
or just a new rehashed version that is probably going to be better of mechanics that either were bad or everything. So I second everything you said. So yeah, those are also my thoughts. Let's go to our last call. Let's talk about this beer that we were drinking. We're going to rate it on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. However, this is just a fun way to rate beers. We have nothing bad to say about the people that are in these tiers, or if you're currently in this tier, or Jeff is even if in this tier. I'm not even going to say anything bad about him.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. When I'm saying that bronze beers are trash, they're horrible. You have to spit them out. You pour them on the ground. They're disgusting. You hate them.
Yeah. Silver beers are just kind of like bad or uninteresting. So your bad micros, your typical macros land here.
Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't drink these again.
Platinum is solid and you totally would drink it again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You like these a lot, and you share them with your friends.
And Mythic, these are the absolute best of the best. These are the omens of the world, defining limited formats worldwide.
God, it's just going to be like this the entire 5 weeks that we play this set before we get the
Yeah.
next one.
Yep.
Fuck.
You're gonna be wishing for Final Fantasy, buddy.
I'm already hoping that we can get past this magic flavor set. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But I will say that this beer wasn't magic flavored, but was really tasty. I liked this a lot.
It was well flavored. I don't know. What's the transition there? It was good.
I have no
It
idea.
tasted good.
Yeah, the
Um,
flavors were harmonized. That's
oh,
it.
I like that one.
It renewed my my sense of
All right. All right.
taste. I don't know. Mobilized
The
my taste buds. There we go.
yeah. The flavor didn't just like dissipate immediately.
No,
It endured.
it definitely endured. Yeah, and I beholden or beheld the pineapple that was in it.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think the pineapple was very strong in this.
Yeah, it was quite
Which
fruity, but I'm okay with that. And if you call yourself a New England IPA, I expect that because
yeah,
that's what they are.
exactly. And it was like the fact that the hops they were using Galaxy and a couple others, but like I like those flavors already, and I thought the pineapple really was very prominent. And I feel like there's a lot of IPAs where grapefruit is the prominent fruit or citrus that you taste. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
having one that is very distinctly pineapple was very
Mhm.
cool. And it didn't say like tropical milkshake or whatever. It was just
That
like,
I had that same comment because it
mhm,
doesn't say super pineapple with like three pineapples in the front and like
mhm,
a friggin' palm tree for some reason. And it's
yeah,
just being like, yeah, like exact tropical's the right word. Like tropical IPA you see all over the place. It's just
mhm,
like, why does this have to be the thing? Can't we just like have a East Coast IPA, which is naturally fruity and hazy?
mhm.
That's kind of what an East Coast IPA is. And we're just allowed to use something other than grapefruit without being all up in my face about it.
Exactly.
Bickford was like, yeah, I
Yeah,
can do that.
you can. Also, the can looks like this, Foggy Day.
Right.
When I look at this can, I think it's going to taste like Earl Grey tea almost. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah.
And but it tastes like I'm on a vacation,
I had to
and
read it
it's
twice that it said New England IPA because I'm like, do I
yeah,
know what a New England IPA is? Because
it's yeah, it's just there's I really like that this yes, it I think it delivers with literally the um like what is supposed to give you a warm hug or something. I don't know if warm is the perfect term, but like I feel like I'm on vacation a little bit. Like I could be on a
yeah,
beach on a foggy day, crack one of these open. Sorry. It's a foggy day outside. I crack one of these open. I feel
I
like I'm on a beach.
imagine I'm on a beach. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Not I'm on a
Yeah.
beach. It's a foggy
I
day.
really like that like take on the marketing because it's like
Yeah.
normally if you see like foggy day or
Hmm.
it's cold and rainy outside, it's like a Russian Imperial stout. It's like
Oh,
here's how
sure,
you
sure, sure.
warm yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
This is like not that.
Hmm.
And yeah, it is tropical in nature, but it's not throwing that in your face. No, this was really well done.
I
And I don't know how much the marketing is like
messing with you,
affecting
yeah.
my image of it. But this is a good East Coast IPA. They
Hmm.
happen to choose pineapple as their fruit flavor. I don't have an issue with that. I liked that the pineapple like came through and the Galaxy. I don't
Hmm.
know that I tasted the other hops they claimed, but the Galaxy for sure came through. And it's just like that's all I want from an
Yeah.
East Coast IPA. It has to be fruity,
And
it has to be
mhm,
like hazy, and it has to be hoppy. And it
mhm.
is all of those things. It had pretty good body. It's
Yeah.
nice.
I love this kind of beer. I think I've realized that I really gravitate towards a lot of these IPAs where they're really smooth on the mouthfeel and not extremely bitter like the West Coast ones.
I
And
think I think when
yeah,
these
this
ones are
is
well made, they're the best ones.
mhm.
It's easy to fuck these ones up. And the West Coasts are like the variance is lower.
Gotcha.
Because
That
it's
makes
because it's
sense.
just like an IPA with some citrus. That's basically what West
Yeah.
Coast is, right?
It's
And
also like I started really drinking beer on the West Coast, and all those IPAs were what I was like, this is what an IPA is. So when it came to the East Coast, I was like, oh, look at all this other cool stuff. And I was
very
so
different
happy
interpretation. Yeah.
that there are some other things I could try. So I think that's
Yeah.
why they've kind of stolen my heart. Um, but this one's great. I don't know if this cracks into Mythic, but this is
I think this
really
is a
good.
solid diamond for
Like
me.
really good
Very solid
diamond.
diamond. Yeah.
And I don't know if the other ones were this solid in diamond, but I do
Oh,
think
I
that we
think this is
probably
Bickford's best. Yeah.
Bickford's best. All right, stamped. Bickford's best diamond rating.
Yeah.
Ching 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 ching. That's all the
And
shining
this is one of those
thing.
ones where like maybe I get a six pack of it or whatever, and then I'm
Hmm.
like, no, this was mythic. I
I
just
mean,
couldn't decide that in the moment. But
exactly. Well, maybe we have to try it again. Who knows? But
yeah,
if I go back, I'm definitely picking up this one.
this is
Foggy
the one
Day
I'm getting.
IPA.
Yeah.
Definitely try this one.
Pick me some
Uh,
up as well.
Pick you some up as well. Fantastic. All right, let's go to closing time. It's been a long, great episode. We talked about lots of things. If you want to talk to us, you can find us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Blue Sky.
You can also find us on Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
That's right. You can find me personally if you want to talk to me. I'm the regular underscore Zach on Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on Twitch. I stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 2 Eastern Standard Time, regular underscore Zach. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is our Discord channel if you want to come tell us about all of your favorite cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm, what you're looking forward to. We'd love to hear it. And also, we routinely run an arena peasant cube draft.
Hmm.
Easy on the wild cards, a lot of fun, still a lot of depth to the draft. Come hang out. The link for our Discord channel is in the show notes.
That's right. We do that every second Wednesday of the month. So I'll be sending something out very soon about getting that one together. Stoked to see what we can do with that. I think it might be the day after Tarkir comes out. So if our
I
resident
fully
cube
expect Tarkir to be fully integrated into the cube at that point. So.
we will see if our cube chef, we should just call him chef,
I
honestly.
love that
Uh,
cube chef.
Cube Chef, if he can get the cards in fast enough. But anyway, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there as well. Go to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment. Do some stuff. We make this podcast for ourselves, but we really do appreciate it when other folks enjoy it. So if you have anything you'd like to say, please leave us a comment. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that Zach believes Omen is the greatest limited mechanic of all time.
All right, that's fine.